time I talked about anime, I was discussing which anime I found to be the most surprisingly awesome, since either I went into those anime blind or they weren't well received by the general public and came out of it being surprised with just how awesome they were. Sadly, that wasn't always the case. Sometimes I went into an anime blind, or the anime in question was hyped up to be really good, or I thought the anime was going to be awesome based on the first few episodes or the premise of the show, only to be sadly disappointed by the end of it. And today, this list is all about the anime that left me feeling rather empty inside, as I count down my top 10 most disappointing anime. Now please pay attention to what I'm about to say. A disappointing anime does not equal a bad anime, for the most part. Just because these animes disappointed me, doesn't mean that they are overall bad shows, just ones I felt could have been so much better. In fact, a lot of the animes on this list are good animes, but even still, there are elements within these anime which just didn't sit well with me, which led to me being disappointed with them. In order to make it easier for everyone to understand, I will say which animes are good and which animes are bad when I'm discussing them, and I'm ranking these animes on how much they disappointed me rather than the overall quality of the show, though sometimes that goes hand in hand. So in this case, a good show that could have been amazing would be considered more disappointing than a decent show that could have turned out quite good. Also, please remember that this is just my own personal opinion, and if you like any of these shows, that's perfectly fine. Feel free to like them and don't let my opinion stop you from liking them. I'm just letting you all know why I'm disappointed with these animes, mostly because I felt that a lot of ideas and elements could have been done or explored within these anime, which is why I feel so disappointed with them. Not because I hate them, but because I like them and want to love them. Also remember, I haven't watched every anime out there, so I'm only mentioning the anime I've watched rather than the anime loads of people were disappointed with, which I haven't seen yet, because that kind of defeats the purpose of it, doesn't it? And with that cleared up, grab yourself a bottle of Jack Daniels, people, because it's time to drink away the disappointment. Cheers. Well, it wouldn't be an anime related list if I didn't talk about High School now, would it? I mentioned in top 10 surprisingly awesome anime that High School was the first thing that came to mind when I thought of anime, since the largest percent of animes take place in high school or have some sort of theme surrounding it. Now personally, I'm not a huge fan of high school anime, but that doesn't mean I don't like them. I mean, there are plenty of really good high school anime out there, like Ouran High School Host Club and Monthly Girl Nozaki-kun. And a lot, and I mean a lot, of people say that the best, or at least one of the best high school animes is The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. And after watching it, all I could think to myself was, really? Now let me just say that The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya is a good anime. In fact, I would never ever refer to this anime as bad, ever. In fact, loads of people think that this is one of the best animes out there, so I had rather high expectations going in. And yeah, while Haruhi is good and all, best anime ever? Hardly. For those who don't know, The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya is a high school anime focused around a student named Kyon, who is your typical high school student, though he doesn't really care for much. At the beginning of the term, he is introduced to the one and only Haruhi, who refuses to talk to or make friends with anyone who isn't a time traveler, esper, or an alien. I know, that sounds rather strange. Anyway, Kyon one day gives Haruhi the idea to make a club so she can find these types of people, so to speak, and Haruhi, being the hyperactive eccentric girl that she is, goes ahead with it and forms the SOS Brigade, consisting of herself, Kyon, Yuki Nagato, Mikuru Asahina, and Itsuki Kozumi, the latter being an alien, time traveler, and esper respectively. And the plot from then on out is for the SOS Brigade to go about doing various different fun activities and partake in various different scenarios. Sounds innocent enough, right? Well, not really, since the plot of Haruhi is rather weird and a bit overly complex in my honest opinion. Since in the show, Haruhi is meant to be God, though there are many fan theories speculating that Kyon is actually God, but anyway. And the purpose of the SOS Brigade is to make sure Haruhi is never bored, otherwise Haruhi will wipe out the universe. I know, sounds rather extreme, doesn't it? Truth be told, I always found the whole God thing rather unnecessary. I didn't think much of it. Granted, this whole thing does come into play much better in the movie, but I'll talk about that later. Questionable plot aside, Haruhi, at times, is actually a really good anime. I'm serious, some of the episodes are really fun to watch and there are some genuinely great moments in the series. Episodes like the movie making episode, the hotel episode, the music episode, the battleship episode were all great fun to watch. Adding to this, the show is very well animated, has a fantastic dub and a stupidly catchy dance number, and Haruhi is a really fun ride at times. At times. As good as this anime is, the main thing that disappointed me were the bad episodes and the fact that this anime is really pretentious. I will say that there are more good episodes in Haruhi than bad ones, but that doesn't change the fact that episodes like Some Day in the Rain and Mysterious Signs were rather boring in all honesty. And of course, let's talk about Endless 8, or as I like to call it, the biggest fucking waste of time I've ever sat through! Oh my god, I hate these episodes so much! I mean, I was fine with Endless 8 for about 2 episodes, since there was a significant difference between the first and second episode. But after episode 4, I just couldn't take any more of it. I mean, having to watch the same shit 8 times was complete and utter bollocks! This brings me to my next point, that this anime is so pretentious. I mean, the whole god complex mixed with the non-chronological episode order, and once again Endless 8, I felt that the series did all this stuff just for the sake of being different. Okay, I know I may sound like I hate this anime, but that's not the case. There are just elements of this anime I felt shouldn't have been there, and I think if the anime didn't try to be so different, it could have been overall better in my eyes. I will admit this though, the entire series, including Endless 8, is worth watching just to experience the disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya, because that has got to be one of the best anime films I have ever seen in my entire life. The series as a whole is good, but not great in my eyes, and in the case of Haruhi Suzumiya, less would have definitely been more. When it comes to anime, or hell, TV shows in general, first episodes mean everything. You have to make sure your series captivates and entices the viewer from episode 1 in order to keep them coming back for more. However, this can be a double-edged sword, since if your first episode is of such high quality, then you have to make sure that the rest of the series follows this standard, or else people are going to become disinterested very quickly. And that's exactly what happened to me with this particular series, since I loved the first couple of episodes and couldn't wait to keep watching. But the more I watched, the more the anime began to fall apart and became rather dull at times, which is a shame really, since if all or the majority of episodes of anime were as good as the first few, this could have easily been one of my favourite animes ever. And this anime is none other than Samurai Champloo. I can imagine a lot of you are rather pissed off right now, since the majority of anime fans love Samurai Champloo, and to an extent I can see why, since there are moments in this anime that kick so much ass and are so cleverly done you can't help but love them. However, I found those moments to be rather few and far between. The story of Samurai Champloo centers around our 3 main characters, Mugen, Jin, and Fu, who are on a quest to find the samurai who, according to Fu, smells like sunflowers. The reason the 3 are together is that both Mugen and Jin saved her from thugs while at the same time getting themselves arrested. After Fu helps them out, they begrudgingly agree to help Fu find what she's looking for, and the rest of the anime follows their many adventures on the quest to find the samurai that smells like sunflowers. Now, I mentioned before how the first episode means everything. Well, the first few episodes of Samurai Champloo were so damn good, I got hooked on this series. Seriously, those episodes were awesome and should not be missed, and it's one of the show's best aspects. But at the same time, this also hurts the show since the majority of episodes that come afterwards aren't nearly as good. And because of the striking difference in quality, I found myself rather bored with this anime, or just rather underwhelmed by the lesser episodes. Now granted, I said the majority since there are some episodes that are just as good as the first couple of them. Case in point, we have the final 3 episodes, the episodes Beat Bop Bandits and Bogus Booty. Seriously, the episode was amazing. But the rest were either meh or just plain bad, and that's what disappointed me the most about this anime. I had to sit through mostly mediocre episodes to get to the good ones. Which is a shame because things like the characters, the fight scenes, the humour, the absolutely amazing soundtrack are what makes this anime, but only a few episodes allow these elements to really shine, with the rest just squandering all that potential. Despite not enjoying the anime as much as I wanted to, Samurai Champloo is still a rather good anime, and definitely worth a watch regardless of your taste. I mean, I may have been disappointed by it, but there are loads of people out there who love this anime, and you know what? You might just love it too. Every year, there's always that one anime, or sometimes 2, that become ridiculously popular and loved by anime fans both new and old. In the case of 2014, there were 2 particular anime that everyone was talking about. Akame ga Kill being the first big anime of the year, and the second one being none other than Tokyo Ghoul. And to be honest, I can clearly see why. I found Tokyo Ghoul to be a great series. It was unique, it was dark, it was brutal, there were so many cool ideas, great fight scenes, very interesting characters, and a really good story. Tokyo Ghoul was an all-around awesome anime and one of my favourite animes of 2014. So you can imagine my excitement for Tokyo Ghoul Season 2, especially after that rather disturbing but kick-ass ending. And when I finally came around to watching it, Season 2 of Tokyo Ghoul treated us to a strange mess of an anime. Now when you've got an anime as successful as Tokyo Ghoul, making a second season is going to put a lot of pressure on you to live up to and exceed people's expectations of the series. I can easily say that Tokyo Ghoul Season 2 is not as good as Season 1. It's a good anime, no question about it, since there are many moments that are just as good or even better than what was in Season 1. But that's not my problem with Season 2. My disappointment with Season 2 could be summed up with one simple word. Rushed. After watching Season 2, I can tell that they rushed this anime out just to please the fans rather than properly thinking about it. As such, Tokyo Ghoul Season 2 mainly suffers not for being worse than the first series, which honestly isn't a real issue here, but rather that the season could have easily, and I mean easily, been better than Season 1. And the fact that it isn't is why I find this anime so disappointing. Tokyo Ghoul Season 2 takes place immediately after events of Season 1. Kaneki has accepted his ghoul side and killed Jason. He then joins the Aguri tree and decides to join the fight as both them and the CCG are in all-out war against each other. New characters and powers are introduced, old characters show the true extent of what they can do, and the level of epicness just keeps rising throughout the series. Sounds awesome, right? Well, the second half is at least. Yes, I thought the first half of Tokyo Ghoul Season 2 was rushed and it resulted in being really bad. I'm serious, the first half of the series suffers from terrible pacing, random fight scenes that dragged on for way too long, characters making questionable decisions, and overall I felt the series wasn't really going anywhere with its characters, but rather they did stuff because the plot said so, rather than developing them further. In fact, most of the first season is just fight scene after fight scene, and it wears out its welcome really quickly. Thankfully, the second half pretty much fixed all of that, since there were many more quiet moments with a lot more character development and building, so that we could see these characters grow and evolve. The fight scenes were much more exciting, and this time they weren't dragged out or repetitive. There was a lot more emotional moments in the second half compared to the first one, and overall the second half was a fun ride and was what the first half should have been. And even though the second half helped to fix a lot of the earlier issues, the damage had already been done by this point and it was rather painful. If the second season of Tokyo Ghoul was better thought out and had a quality level of the second half throughout its entire run, rather than being rushed out the door and pretty much being crap for the first 6 episodes, then this could easily been just as good if not better than Season 1. Tokyo Ghoul Season 2 is still a good anime, and if you like Season 1 you'll definitely get something out of Season 2, but as it stands, Tokyo Ghoul Season 2 was overall a bit of a letdown. I may love the second half, but I have to look at this anime as a whole, and if it takes 6 out of 12 episodes of your anime to actually get good, then you've done something seriously wrong. When it comes to storytelling, uncertainty can be one of the most crippling aspects that can seriously affect the outcome of the entire story. This applies to every form of storytelling. Movies, books, video games, TV shows, and of course, anime. Not knowing whether your anime is going to be long or short, uncertain about which plot lines to follow, uncertain about how to wrap up all the loose ends, whether or not the anime is going to be funny or scary, stupid or serious, loud or quiet. Honestly, if you're not sure what your story is meant to be about or trying to convey, then that can really dampen how good the story is or how good it could have been, as is such the case with Captain Earth. Captain Earth is an odd one for me. On its own, Captain Earth is a fine show. It's got some good characters, a simple story about fighting for the ones you care about, as well as being your typical coming-of-age story, but it works. Good fight scenes, some rather nice animation, a lot of interesting ideas and themes, so all in all it's quite good. However, I felt Captain Earth could have been something great, if it knew which direction the series was going to take. What I mean by that is that Captain Earth tends to flip-flop between various different tones throughout the entire series. There are times where it tries to go all Evangelion on us with a lot of interesting ideas and themes about children in battle, god complex, and references to many literary works, mostly Shakespeare in this case. Other times it decides to go all Power Rangers on us, with the main characters just going about their lives without caring the world, only to be needed in the last 5 minutes for a mandatory fight scene. There are times when it goes all Gurren Lagann on us, throwing logic out the window and just trying to be ridiculously epic and awesome, or sometimes just saying, you know what, fuck it, here, have some fan service. That's Captain Earth's biggest flaw, and the reason I'm disappointed in it so much. If it just had more focus and kept a consistent tone of beam throughout the series, it could have been so much better. I didn't think it would have been amazing or one of the best animes ever, but still pretty damn good. Personally, I felt the Eva style tone of Captain Earth, used from time to time, would have been the best if used throughout the entire series, but going all Gurren Lagann wouldn't have been bad either, considering some of the fight scenes are really well done, and the mech designs in this show are fucking awesome. If a bit unoriginal, did someone say AV Unit too much? I couldn't honestly see Captain Earth working with the more Power Ranger style tone, since those episodes got boring really fast, and the only other option after that is being a full on ecchi show, and there's only so much fan service I can take. I mean, Jesus Christ, look at those things! Captain Earth is still worth checking out if you're into mecha anime or in the mood for an overall more lighthearted anime. Just don't go in thinking it's going to be a great time from beginning to end, because if you do, you're going to be rather disappointed, just like I was. Well, it's been a good 10 minutes. Why don't we talk about high school anime again? Again, I've got nothing against high school anime. It just doesn't interest me too much, and since there's so much high school anime out there, it really takes something rather interesting or special to make me go out of my way to watch it. Number 6 on this list certainly did just that, as it quickly got my attention with its premise, and I was really excited to watch this anime, since unlike most typical high school animes, this one was rather irregular, since it was set in a magical high school. It's such a shame, I mean, it really is. Now, I'm not implying that the irregular at Magical High School is bad. Oh god, no. In fact, I really like this anime. But I wanted to love it so badly, but I just can't bring myself to do it, and oh boy was I ever disappointed by that. Now, before I break down why I couldn't bring myself to completely gush over this anime, let's look at the anime as a whole first. The Irregular at Magical High School is, as the name suggests, a high school anime. However, what sets this series apart is the fact that the school is based around using magic. The series follows our two main characters, Tatsuya and Miyuki, both of which are new students at the academy and a brother and sister, of course. And the series follows these two as we are introduced to many new characters and partake in multi-school competitions, as well as dealing with people from our main characters' past and how they plan to interfere with both Tatsuya and Miyuki's future. The Irregular at Magical High School has a lot going for it, the most obvious aspect being the entire premise of the show. Having a high school anime based around learning and using magic just works so well, and the Irregular at Magical High School knows this, since moments like the 9 schools competition and Monolith arc show just how the students use their magical powers to the best of their abilities, and it is a spectacle to watch. This brings me to my next positive point, the animation and its action sequences. With the production of the show being done by Madhouse, it's rough obvious that the action scenes would be awesome. I mean, this is the same studio that done Claymore, Trigun, Black Lagoon and Hellsing Ultimate. And as always, Madhouse delivers the goods since the action scenes in this anime are just plain awesome. Paired with all the different magical powers going on and the absolutely beautiful animation, and this show is worth watching just for the visual aspect alone. The Irregular at Magical High School also has a cast of varied and interesting characters, which sadly don't get nearly as much screen time as they should, thus leading to my overall biggest problem with this anime. It's filled with way too much exposition. What I mean by that is that the Irregular at Magical High School feels the need to explain how magic works in this universe in order for the audience to get a better understanding of how the students can do what they do, which is perfectly fine and understandable for the first few episodes. But the anime does this every fucking episode, and it takes up at least 50% of the runtime, leaving not much room for the characters to really develop and flesh out as much as they can. Worst of all is that they feel the need to explain everything, and I mean everything, about how magic works to the smallest detail, and by episode 5 you're just sick of it. There's a common saying amongst any form of storytelling that is in a visual format, and it's show, don't tell, since it's always better to show the audience what's going on rather than straight up telling them so they can interpret it for themselves and thus leaving a bigger impact on the audience. This is something the Irregular at Magical High School needed to do. I understand needing to explain how magic works for the first few episodes, that's perfectly fine, but we didn't need the same explanation for 26 episodes. This is pretty much the only thing that really disappointed me with this anime, since everything else is great in my opinion, but the way the anime tells the story and its overall structure and pacing really bogs this down, which is why I only like this anime and not love it. If they decide to make a second series to this, please take what I've said into consideration because I want to love this anime so badly. Sometimes hype can pretty much make or break anything, since things that get a lot of hype are watched by millions, and that particular product has to make sure they live up to hype or else everyone's going to be disappointed with it. Not just a selected few, or in some cases, something could get so much hype, it's otherwise impossible to be as good as people say it is. Thus is the case with me and Space Dandy. For the longest time, everyone was going on about how amazing Space Dandy was, how it was one of the funniest, smartest, entertaining, creative, spectacular, jaw-dropping shows you could ever watch. And after watching Space Dandy, yeah, some of the episodes of Space Dandy are just as good as people say they are. But what people forget to mention are the other episodes of Space Dandy. You know which ones I'm talking about. The episodes of Space Dandy that just fucking suck. It seems people are only painting half a picture when talking about Space Dandy, because they only talk about the good episodes of Space Dandy and neglect to mention the bad episodes of Space Dandy, and oh boy were those episodes bad. Now with a show like Space Dandy, there's a lot you can do with it, since the plot is about Space Dandy, a space bounty hunter, who along with Cutie and Meow, search for various different aliens and partake in various different adventures across multiple planets. Some of the episodes of Space Dandy take full advantage of this, being some of the best 20 minutes of anime you could watch at a time and just being so much fun to watch. Episodes like the zombie episode, the college episode, the rock band episode, the multiverse episode, and the race episode are just awesome in every single way and should not be missed. Sadly, I'd say only 30 to 40% of the episodes in Space Dandy are actually good, and the remaining 60 to 70% are so bad. And I don't mean they're not as good as the other episodes, I mean they're really bad. These episodes of Space Dandy are, for the most part, really weird and uninteresting. Most of the storylines are rather bizarre, and most of the time you've got no idea what's going on. Not helping is the animation, which is still really good in these episodes, turning into a mindfuckery of images and nonsensical visuals, adding to the surreal and rather disturbing nature of these episodes. And to be honest, I just couldn't care less about them. Perhaps if this show wasn't so hyped up, then I wouldn't feel so disappointed with it. But considering the praise it got and how some of the episodes are worthy of that praise, makes it all more disappointing when you have to slug through the crap that comes out of this anime's arse. Space Dandy is still something I'm glad I watched thanks to all the good this show has going for it, but sadly, the bad more than outweighs the good. As I mentioned before, every year there's a select few anime that become really popular and are watched by anime fans both old and new. 2015 is rather undecided at the moment, though everyone seems to be leaning towards One Punch Man. In 2014 we have both Akame ga Kill and Tokyo Ghoul. In 2013 there was Attack on Titan because it's fucking Attack on Titan. And in 2012 it was none other than Sword Art Online. Everyone was saying Sword Art Online, or SAO, was one of the best animes in years, being the saving grace for anime, being the holy grail of anime and the ultimate anime experience. And when I finally got around to watching it, I thought to myself, yeah, SAO was good, but it's not great. SAO and I have a funny relationship, since the first time I watched it I really didn't like it. But later on I decided to watch it again with an open mind and I ended up liking it much more. But with that said, it's nowhere near as good as everyone makes it out to be. And the main reason I was disappointed with this anime was more to do with that I felt the series had potential to be one of the best animes ever, but sadly it didn't go all the way with what it could have done, and was more a case of faulting the show for what it could have been rather than what it was. For those who haven't seen SAO, which is really surprising at this point in time, the premise is that a new online game has prevented players from leaving the game until they complete all 100 floors. The only catch is that if you die in the game, you die in real life. And thus the story follows our main characters Kirito and Asuna as they battle their way to the top in order to escape and free every player trapped inside. The premise pretty much makes this anime, since the idea is just fantastic and really opens itself up to various different ideas and themes that could be explored in this type of setting, which SAO sadly doesn't really do very well, but we'll talk about that later. First, let's discuss what the show does right. Aside from the before mentioned premise, the fight scenes in this anime are fucking awesome. I'm serious, fights like the first boss, the duel with Heathcliff and the fight with Gleamrise are some of my favourite fight scenes in all of anime and are so much fun to watch every time. SAO also has a very nice soundtrack and the animation is great too. SAO also has very strong side characters in my opinion, since I really like Klein, Lisbeth, Silica and Agil, as well as by far my favourite character, Yui, who is without question the best thing to come out of Sword Art Online, since the idea behind her, her impact on the story, and the fact that she's so sweet and adorable. Oh god, Yui, I just love you so much. So yeah, SAO does have a lot of positives. However, the negatives are mostly to do with the main characters and the story, which is such a big part of any story. Before anyone gets offended, I don't hate the main characters or the story. I just find both to be rather underwhelming and lack much depth in my honest opinion. Character-wise, Kirito is just kinda meh to me. I mean, he's by no means a bad protagonist, but I don't find him to be very interesting or even that entertaining. I mean, yeah, he's got his badass moment and a few heartfelt moments, but not much outside of that. Asuna was a little better than Kirito, since from the very start she was one hell of a badass, but even then as the series went on, Asuna became less and less important and didn't really end up doing much. And now we get to the story, and the main problem here is that it's a little too simple for my taste. What I mean by that is that while the main goal of the story is interesting, most of the stuff that happens around it isn't. I mean, episodes like the first 3 episodes, the ones with Yui and the ones with the boss fights in them, are really well done and bring up a lot of interesting ideas surrounding this type of story and setting. But there are other episodes which are just so bleh. Episodes that concern fishing of all things and the 2-part CSI fucking Warcraft. Not helping this is that because of the nature of the show, there are many time skips that take place, and because of this, a lot of things just kinda happen sporadically rather than having any sense of build-up and development, like the romance between Kirito and Asuna, which isn't a bad romance, but it feels kinda forced. And finally, there's the issue with the second half of the series, which I will say isn't as bad as people make it out to be, since Yui comes back, which is an automatic plus in my eyes, and Kirito actually has quite a bit of character development, but the second half as a whole is really uninteresting and lacks any sort of emotional urgency or depth. SEO is very much by the numbers. It does everything rather well and is an overall well-rounded show, but this show could have easily been so much more, and I really wanted it to be just that, if only it took its ideas further rather than just going halfway. But oh well, SEO is something I think everyone should at least try, if not for the premise and action scenes, then for Yui without a doubt. Seriously, I love her so much. For the most part, the entire premise or nature of the anime you're going to watch will often decide whether or not the show is worth your time and effort, and the more interesting and unique the premise, the more likely people will watch it. I mean, anime like Fullmetal Alchemist, Attack on Titan, Code Geass and Death Note have such an interesting premise, you can't help but be intrigued and want to find out what the story's all about. So when I heard of an anime where every decade or so, 7 servants from hero and legend are summoned to take part in a magical war, in which the winner is granted a single wish, well, with a premise as awesome sounding as that, you can bet your ass I started watching this anime immediately. Only to be disappointed by the fact that this show kinda sucks. Yes, at number 3 on this list we have the 2006 adaptation of the visual novel Fate Stay Night. Now I know a lot of people have both nostalgic and sentimental value towards this anime, since it was the first adaptation of the Fate Stay Night visual novel and came out quite some time ago, almost 10 years to be fair. So for a lot of people this would have been their first proper anime, and by proper anime I mean things that aren't along the lines of Pokemon, Digimon and Dragon Ball Z. And to be fair, Fate Stay Night was one of the earliest animes I watched when I started getting back into anime, but even then I didn't think it was very good. Not awful by any means, but I'd be hard pressed to call this anime good. Anyway, the premise of Fate Stay Night and the reason anyone would watch this anime is that our main character, Shiro Emiya, has been unwillingly forced to take part in the Holy Grail War, a war where 7 masters summon 7 servants of different classes based on heroes of myth and legend, to fight until only one pair remains, at which point the Holy Grail itself manifests and grants the winner a single wish. Anyway, Shiro has no idea about this war and doesn't want any part of it, but feels he must win in order to stop any suffering caused by the war and to become a hero of justice, with the help of his servant Saber, arguably the best servant ever to be summoned and none other than King Arthur. And thus the anime follows Shiro and Saber as they fight the other 6 servants and masters, as well as form alliances and discover various secrets behind both Shiro and Saber's past. Now while the premise of the show is awesome, the execution leaves a lot to be desired, and this is down to many things, the first being our main character. In this adaptation of Fate Stay Night, Shiro is a complete idiot. And not the funny kind of idiot, no. The type of idiot who doesn't know he's an idiot and never gets it through his head that he's an idiot. This is made worse by his actions and dialogue, since he feels Saber shouldn't fight because she is a woman. Oh, so he's a misogynist now, eh? And does really stupid things like trying to take on the other servants by himself or forcing Saber not to battle. This is also made worse by his dialogue, since some of his lines are so fucking stupid. Things like, I love her but I can't apologize, or people die if they are killed.
Fact.
Just add more salt into the wound. The story doesn't help either, and this is mainly due to the fact that this adaptation tries to follow all the different routes in the visual novel within 26 episodes, and oh boy does that ever bite the show in the ass. The show constantly throws all of these different characters and arcs at us at random and doesn't really do anything with them. Granted, a lot of it is rather interesting stuff, but they pretty much forget about it in the next episode. The best example I can give is when it is revealed that both Rin and Sakura are actually sisters who were separated when they were young, and only Rin knew about it. This type of thing is great and has some potential for so many great emotional moments, but by the next episode they don't even bring it up once, almost like it never happened. And that's really disappointing to me, since I wanted to see these storylines go further and become something great rather than just being there for the sake of being there. Okay, I've been ranting for a while now. Is there anything positive about Fate Stay Night? Well, yes. First of all, the soundtrack to this anime is fucking fantastic. I'm serious, Fate Stay Night has one of my favourite anime soundtracks of all time. I love it so much, and I highly recommend listening to it as it is the best thing to come out with this anime. Another thing I like is the side characters, since I feel characters like Rin and Sakura were portrayed really well in this adaptation, and I love the way Saber was portrayed. It wasn't perfect by any means, but I felt this anime did a great job at showing both the warrior and king side of Saber, and she was the best character in the anime by far. Fate Stay Night is a very flawed show, but it has some positive aspects to keep it from being awful. However, it's rather difficult to recommend watching it these days, since the series was recently readapted again in 2014 with Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, which, while not a perfect series, is miles above the original with every aspect except for the soundtrack and the fact that there's a 2011 prequel, Fate Zero, which is honest to god one of the best animes I've ever seen in my life, makes it all the more harder to recommend this anime. Sorry to say, but because of these two, the original Fate Stay Night really isn't worth watching at this point, but hey, it did teach us one thing, that people die if they are killed.
Fact.
Now, I've stated before that I'm a huge fan of the Gundam series, and since this franchise has been around for such a long time, there are going to be people with so many different views and opinions on each different series. Now, in my top 10 surprisingly awesome anime video, I stated that a lot of Gundam fans hated Gundam Seed, but I ended up really enjoying it. Well, the complete opposite happened with this particular Gundam series, since everyone on the message board went about saying this series was one of their favourites and was one of the best Gundam series ever. So naturally I had high expectations for this show going in. But holy shit guys, I don't know what you saw that I didn't, because I really didn't think much about the 8th MS team. I don't know what I'm missing here, but I don't get why so many people think this Gundam series is one of the strongest series in the entire franchise, because the 8th MS team to me was just so blah. I swear it was one of the most boring and uninteresting animes I've ever sat through, and I sat through Gundam Seed Destiny. Ugh. Anyway, let's take a look at this anime and see why, and I really mean why, so many people like it. Gundam the 8th MS team is set during the 1 Year War, more accurately the final weeks of it. The story centers around our main protagonist Shiro. God damn it, how many Shiros are there in anime at this point? As he is assigned to the 8th MS team and is tasked to find the Zeon hidden base, while at the same time trying to find Aina, a Zeon pilot who Shiro developed a liking for on his way to Earth before they both discovered that they were at war with each other. If I have to give the anime credit, I will say I do like the romance between Aina and Shiro. It just feels very natural and I like the interactions they have together. This is made better by the fact that they're on opposite sides, since it makes the love they have for each other much stronger and you don't want to see them fight each other, so props to the anime, you did something right. Too bad you pretty much did everything else wrong. Honestly, everything about this anime is just plain bad or uninteresting. Most of the characters lack depth and don't leave a lasting impact on you, or are just plain annoying. The story isn't anything too special. It's pretty much just a very abridged Gundam plot, without many emotional themes or interesting ideas behind it. The animation is rather lackluster, though I imagine that's probably because most of the budget went on producing Gundam Wing at the time. The dub is just plain horrible, and even the action scenes aren't that good, since the anime is focused on the more nitty-gritty setting instead of the epic space operas, which I hear a lot of people like about this show. Well, if you like it, fair enough, but I just couldn't care less to be honest. Gundam the 8th MS team is currently the weakest Gundam series I've seen so far. I'm sure there are worse ones out there, but I haven't seen them yet. The anime isn't awful or even that bad, it's just painfully mediocre. If people didn't hype this anime up to be one of the best Gundam series, then I wouldn't be nearly so disappointed with this anime, but sadly that wasn't the case and thus lands at the number 2 spot of my most disappointing animes, which leaves, number 1. Throughout this countdown, I've expressed my issues with the previous anime, but each one was good in some fashion, or at least somewhat decent. For number 1 on this list, this anime is just plain bad in every sense of the word. And the worst part about it is that this anime could have easily, and I mean easily, been good. Damn good, even great, and the fact that it wasn't is so much of a disappointment. This anime could have been a glorious golden dragon, but it was nothing more than a chaos dragon. Okay, who wrote this? Why did this anime have to suck? Chaos Dragon, all the ingredients for a good anime were right there, yet somehow you fucked it up royally. I mean, you have to try to mess up this badly, and I mean really try, resulting in not only one of the worst anime of 2015, but sadly one of the worst anime I've ever seen. And it pains me to say this because I really wanted to like this show, and I mean really wanted to like this show. The story of Chaos Dragon revolves around a war going on between 2 countries, with the country of Nil Kamui being caught up in the middle of it. Each country is protected by one of 3 dragons, with the red dragon meant to be protecting Nil Kamui, but has long since gone berserk. Our main character, Ibuki, is a descendant of the royal family of Nil Kamui and holds the power to summon the red dragon's flames. With it, Ibuki can destroy any obstacle within his path, and as such, Ibuki seeks to reclaim independence for his country and put an end to this war. One of the more interesting things that Chaos Dragon has going for it is how Ibuki uses his power, since in order to use the flames of the red dragon, Ibuki has to sacrifice something of equal value, in this case the people closest to his heart, and thus Ibuki has to make a choice. Does he sacrifice one to save many, or are those closest to him too important to let go of? This idea is fantastic! Having to sacrifice his friends in order to use the power of the dragons is a genius concept that can lead to so many heartfelt and emotional moments in this anime, as well as acting as a major internal conflict with Ibuki's sense of morals and duty, are allowing for some really great character development and really heartbreaking moments. Too bad this anime doesn't even try to make this work. I mean, this whole concept doesn't have any lasting value since none of the characters is given enough development or screen time to make any sort of impact, so that when they die, we just don't care. And why should we? If the anime doesn't care, then the audience doesn't care. I mean, Ibuki doesn't even change much throughout the entire series despite the shit he has to do, making it difficult to sympathize or care about him. And that's the reason Chaos Dragon is so disappointing. It didn't even try. I mean, there were so many great elements in this anime. Things like Swallow's backstory and personal story arc, Ibuki and Iha's relationship, as well as the dilemma that could have risen from her role in the story, the lore behind the dragons, the story behind Kagaruba, Swallow and Mellow's relationship, the story behind Lu and the origins of her weapon. I mean, these elements are all things the anime could have easily have explored and dealt with, but for some stupid ass reason couldn't be bothered to. Adding to this is the rather mediocre animation, not very impressive fight scenes, aside from the one on the boat, that was pretty good, a forgettable soundtrack and completely half-assed ending, and Chaos Dragon is without question the most disappointing anime I've ever seen. This has been CRASHX500. I wish you guys a great night, take care, and I'm not disappointed in these animes because I didn't like them. I'm disappointed because I like these animes and want to like them even more. Well anyway, I guess it's back to watching the full season of new anime for me. Did someone say brand new Gundam series? Oh yeah!